Okay, so before we start, so in this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity and assigning us similarly a fictional business identity. So make sure everybody knows who you are, not where you go to school. That's not part of this. You'll have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical aspects of the issues that you're presenting. And to make recommendations for solutions that pass muster on all three counts. During this time, we will not interrupt you. At the end of the 25-minute presentation, when you're finished, spend the next 10 or 15 minutes in character, in our role, with a Q&A session.
Yep.
Okay? When that's done, I will invite you to take a deep breath, relax, and we'll give you feedback.
Perfect.
So, whenever you're ready to start.
Well, good afternoon. We are the FOE Consulting Group. Today, we will be addressing the Fairlife Board of Directors, discussing some ethical issues within the company, as well as our proposed solution. We really appreciate you guys being here today. We appreciate your time. We're very excited to get started. My name is Brandon.
I'm Kaya. I'm Rachel.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Danielle.
All right, so here we have our quick little table of contents, just to give you guys a quick little overview of where we're going to be heading today.
So first, we want to start off with a brief history of your company, of Fairlife. Starting in 2012, it was launched nationally in 2015. A few years later, in 2019, some programs were announced and launched to help with animals, animal welfare programs, some other additional like nutrition programs that are still in place today to help with the goal and mission of the company. However, that same year, Fairlife was caught in a lot of legal trouble with multiple settlements and multiple lawsuits taking place about animal abuse on the farms that Fairlife is partnered for. These lawsuits were ended in settlements, and the amount and the details of the settlements are not disclosed to the public. However, afterwards, Fairlife announced that they were going to be cutting ties with all farms engaged in this abusive and unethical behavior. The following year, Fairlife was acquired by Coca-Cola, which is a big accomplishment. And then around 2 years later, in 2022, they started a grant program, which was initiated to send grants to grassroots programs with the goal of helping nutrition in their local communities. However, on the more negative side, a few years later, we come back to these ethical issues in 2023, and as recent as end of 2024, more awareness and more investigations found that abuse was still happening on these farms that Fairlife was partnering with, and necessarily saying that they cut ties with, proven that that wasn't exactly the case.
Thank you, Kaya. So just to dive a little bit deeper into these investigations that have caused our company some issues in the past, like she mentioned, the first undercover investigation was conducted by an animal rights group called Animal Recovery Mission, or ARM. And in this investigation, they exposed video footage exposing severe animal abuse, which include physical harms such as kicking, beating, whipping, dragging the animals by their horns or their ears, as you can see in this picture. Not only this, they were being subjected to medical neglect and overall just forced to live in poor conditions. Our company, Fairlife, responded by condemning this abuse in public statements, cutting ties with the farms that were conducting this abuse, and made commitments to implement stricter policies to prevent this from happening in the future. Unfortunately, this wasn't the only investigation that happened, and a few years later in 2023, at Windy Ridge Dairy and Windy 2 Dairy in Indiana, ARM conducted another investigation in which they found that the same abuses were still occurring. Not only this, they also uncovered that our company, Fairlife, was still sourcing from the farms that we had claimed to cut ties with in the past. And this was a big issue because it caused many people to question the integrity and the accountability of our company, and overall, which a bad look on our brand reputation. And it doesn't end there. More recently, as Kaya mentioned, in 2024, ARM conducted yet another undercover investigation, this time in Arizona at Rainbow Valley Dairy and Butterfield Dairy, in which they found that calves were being violently separated from their mothers at a very young age, which is a big issue because with most animals, they, at a very young age, right after birth, they need to be close to their mothers as it is important to their development into adulthood. Again, they found that workers were kicking, punching, whipping, and again dragging the calves and handling them in very abusive ways. As you can see in this picture, you can see a farm worker force feeding a young calf and shoving a feeding tube down their throat, which could many times lead to internal injuries that could cause infections and death in certain circumstances. Not only this, but the young cows were being confined to 3 foot by 5 foot crates. As we know, cows are very large animals, and a 3 foot by 5 foot crate is not suitable for any animal of that size, which goes to show that they were being forced to live in inhumane conditions. Not only this, but they were again being denied food, water, and medical care in many instances, which led to many unnecessary deaths. And lastly, as we know, Arizona is one of the hottest states in our country, and in certain circumstances, the cows were being subjected to live in temperatures up to 135 degrees, which again led to dehydration and unfortunately deaths in certain circumstances.
So
No worries. So just going into the ethical concerns of our issues, when you're looking at those pictures, I want you to think about what emotions you felt. I'm willing to bet that the emotions associated with those pictures were negative, and that's because as human beings, we have the ability to feel and experience emotion, and it turns out we are not the only ones that have this ability. Cows, among other animals, through scientific research, have the ability to also experience emotions such as pain and pleasure, distress, anxiety, things like that. And that's because cows are sentient beings like us, which means that they're born with fundamental rights. Within these rights include the right to live free from abuse and unnecessary suffering. Animals have the right to be treated as ends rather than merely means to an end. And as we have seen, our company has failed to protect these rights, and we have treated the cows solely as production tools. And that is important because our business depends on these cows for our profit. It's the core of our business model. And that means that we have the duty to ensure that they are receiving the proper care and handling to live a healthy lifestyle.
So now we want to address the current efforts that Fairlife is saying that they do to kind of back up these unethical concerns. First is a $40 million investment in that animal welfare program that I mentioned a bit earlier that started in 2019. So lots of money to go back into helping the animals, as well as a full-time veterinarian staff with 12 years plus experience, having a Fairlife Animal Welfare Advisory Council with people that are really experts in the field of dealing with the dairy farms and the animals that Fairlife is using. Additionally, regular audits each year at all the supplying farms. These audits are third-party audits as well, which is a great way to make sure there's no biasness coming from the information of them. Additionally, they have to be certified in the dairy farm program and the Validus, which is basically a requirement of certain ethical standards and conditions that farms have to be in place for Fairlife to work with them. And then lastly, a zero tolerance policy for animal abuse. So although we have these current efforts in place, it begs the question, why do we need to do more? It's because, as we've seen before, that this is not ending the abuse. It's still happening, it's still occurring, and we believe in putting in a solution that is not only going to create a punishment for abuse when it happens, but hopefully nip it before it even starts.
Now moving into our proposed solution. So before I start, I want to first preface that according to our estimates, in order to implement the solution, it will cost roughly around $30 million to do so, which Kyle will get into further detail in some of the later slides. So this is the FOE Ethical Dairy Reform Plan. The objective is to transform Fairlife's supply chain into an ethical and transparent model by ensuring humane cow treatment, strict farm accountability, and of course, consumer transparency. We would like to transition to a quote-unquote gold standard dairy supply chain where ethical sourcing only comes from verified ethical farms. So Fairlife would partner exclusively with these farms that meet our gold standard guidelines. The farms must follow our ethical requirements to earn this verified ethical farm status to continue to partner with us. Now some of the criteria for the gold standard. It will be a legally binding contract that all the partner farms must follow, and it would require, of course, strict animal welfare protections, so no abuse, proper veterinary care, and of course, humane handling. On top of that, we propose frequent unannounced audits with publicly available results. We want these audits to be unannounced and as spontaneous as possible. We don't want the farmers to kind of have a schedule of when we're going to come in. To do these audits, we don't want them to kind of clean up their act right before these auditors are going to come in. We want a clear and unfiltered image of the conditions on these farms so that nothing is swept right under the rug right before the auditors do come in. And of course, building upon what Kaya mentioned, a zero tolerance policy. Because this is a legally binding contract, non-compliant farms will face termination, and depending on the violation, if it's severe enough, they could even face financial penalties. Further building off of this solution, we also plan to implement a 24/7 public live stream platform. The way this is going to work is that the general public, anybody online, will be able to go to this website. They're going to see an image of the United States, and there's going to be these little bubbles all over the map. Each of these bubbles represents an individual farm that Fairlife is currently partnered with. They'll be able to click on any of these farms and an interface will pop up where they will be able to switch between multiple camera feeds on each of these farms. They will be able to see the pastures, the barns, milking stations, any areas where the cows are being handled. And the public will be able to monitor cow conditions in real time to ensure ethical treatment is being enacted. And they will also be able to access past recordings to view the farm's compliance with the gold standard, and we kind of view this as a gesture of good faith. We don't want anything hidden. We want everything to be out there for everybody to see, to show that we aren't hiding anything. And of course, the way this is going to work is that the users will be able to report mistreatment directly through the live stream platform. So let's say they're on a specific farm in a specific state, and they're looking at the milking station, and they notice something that may be a violation or may be unethical. Well, they'll be able to timestamp that incident. They'll be able to make a comment, which is then outsourced to a third-party platform with trained employees who are trained to identify if an action was abuse, if it was a violation, if it was mistreatment, any of that. We understand that the public isn't always aware of what's considered proper handling on a farm, so this is why we have this third-party platform to kind of cut through the noise, isolate the individual violations that are true violations of the gold standard, which will then be sent to the higher-ups of Fairlife for a decision to be made from there. And of course, because this is a website, there is always the opportunity for ad revenue to continue to support the financial sustainability of this platform. Building even further on this, we also plan to implement an AI-powered monitoring system within the live stream platform itself. Just in case anything does slip through the cracks, anything does go unnoticed, this AI-powered platform will make sure that those don't go unnoticed. The same thing will happen. A timestamp will be made. An AI-generated comment will be made, which will then be sent to the third-party platform to then be reviewed by those trained employees. On top of that, we even have consumer-accessible QR codes on all Fairlife products, so the public can verify the sourcing of where it came from, as well as view welfare reports. And then, last but not least, we also plan to implement a whistleblower protection program for farm employees so they can report abuse anonymously without any repercussions from the farms that they were working at. And now I'd like to pass it off to Danielle, where she will discuss why our solution is ethical.
Thank you, Brandon. So as he has outlined it for me, two big points that we want to focus are animal rights and consumer rights. As Noah previously touched on, Fairlife has been in the center of several arms investigations, which has shown the inhumane treatment of these cows that we use for our food production. We obviously have now noted that it is essential for the company to move towards humane treatment of these animals and not only see them as a step in the food production, but treat them as we should, which allows humane treatment of these animals by upholding their rights that they have as animals that we use within our food production. Next, we want to talk about consumer rights. It's really important for us. We've seen a lack of transparency from Fairlife through these arms investigations, saying we're cutting ties with farms and then ultimately 1 year later revealing we are still working with those farms. Consumers don't know what's happening. When they look at Fairlife, they don't know if they're telling the truth or lying, being deceitful, and we believe that it is our consumers' rights to have informed opinions about our company and understand what is going on behind the scenes. So by giving consumers their rights, again, we're allowing them to make those informed decisions about the products they're buying and consuming and allowing them to align with their own ethical values that they share. Then moving forward, we put our recommendations through the rights test to ensure that we are ethically justified in the changes we want to make and the solutions we want to bring into the company. First, we realized that there was a clear violation of the animal rights with lack of humane treatment and also a lack of transparency, which treated our consumers with taking away their rights of knowing what our company stands by. Second, we realized that this was our moral obligation. We needed to treat our animals better. We needed to take steps to move towards more humane treatment and also be more transparent with our consumers. Third, we realized that some trade-offs might be we are bringing to light these ARM investigations that maybe some consumers of our products are unaware of. And then also privacy concerns when it comes to these 24/7 live streams, when it comes to our farm workers. But overall, by the fourth step, we realize we are still ethically justified. We have lacked transparency for a large period of time, and we need to make changes that seem big and are going to be big when it comes to the future of our company. So we are ethically justified in bringing these live streams and transparency to our consumers so they know what products they are bringing into their household.
All right, so you may be asking, is this solution even legal for us to implement? Well, unfortunately, animals, especially farm animals, are not protected federally. But luckily, there are many state and local measures that do protect these farm animals, and we see this in many states. For example, in the state of California, we have Prop 12, and this prohibits animals to be inhumanely confined into a very small space. So this can be that they're unable to turn around, unable to lay down, unable to scratch themselves even, and this is definitely a big violation of animal rights. And we see in Maine and Michigan that they have their own version of this exact same law. Again, in California, we have Penal Code 597, and this makes it illegal to neglect or harm any animal, including farm animals. So this would put those instances of animal abuse that have been observed as illegal. And then again, in Michigan, the use of a gestation crate or a veal crate or a battery crate is also illegal. So again, inhumanely confining that animal into a very, very small space, which can be very anxiety-inducing for them. And then we see in other states such as Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Ohio, Rhode Island, Utah, and Vermont that they've established livestock standards boards to create a fair set of standards amongst all the farms in the states to ensure that they are working towards a set of standards. And then again, in California, New Jersey, Ohio, and Rhode Island, there is a law that prohibits the tail docking of cattle. Going back to what was said about how animals are sentient beings, especially these cows, the way that a cow has their tail is similar to the way that a dog wags their tail to exhibit that they're happy or that they're sad. They hide their tail away. So whenever you cut the tail off, it's kind of taking away their ability to express how they're feeling and to really exuberate how they are sentient beings. And luckily, with our use of contracts, our standards are legally binding and legally enforceable. So any farm that is entering these contracts are going to be held to this standard. And if they are abusing their animals or illegally confining them, or let's say even tail docking or harmfully branding them when they don't need to be, this will be considered a breach of contract and they will be having to pay financial damages, or it can even escalate into some kind of civil case. And then we also do see some states where our solution would have a little bit of a problem, and this can be defined as ag-gag laws, and this is also known as farm security laws to make it sound a little bit better from those states. So these laws make it illegal to film in any kind of agricultural setting, so that would be also including a dairy farm, and this tries to limit any kind of whistleblowing in the agricultural industry. So it would limit something like we had seen before with the ARM investigation against Fairlife. There's also something called quick reporting laws. So at farms in these states where footage is maybe allowed, these whistleblowers need to turn in their evidence to the authorities within 24 hours. And this prevents them from being able to build up multiple pieces of evidence to say, hey, I have this case, this farm is repeatedly kicking their animals, repeatedly, all these animals are in the crate. But they can't do that whenever they are being forced to turn it in. And if they do turn it in after 24 hours, that evidence is no longer admissible, it's void, there's nothing they can do about it. So here's a list of states that have these laws. We see this in Alabama, Arkansas, Iowa, Missouri, Montana, and North Dakota. And after our research, we have found that Fairlife currently, nor in the past, does work with any dairy farms in these states, and we will not, moving forward, we will not branch into doing work in those states as they have laws that go against our code of standards. And now on to Kaya with more financial information.
So the money's always the big question. We know we threw around the number 30 million in the beginning, which is a lot. And before going into where we're going to get that money from, why that number is what we came up with, I want to go into a brief little financial history and sales history of Fairlife. So first, the big number is when it was sold to Coca-Cola, it was for $980 million. Additionally, the following year, it reached over $1 billion in retail sales, which is an incredible accomplishment. Also, in 2024, there was a 28% in year-to-year year-over-year increased sales, which was basically the amount of sales in a set period of time, same period of time, back to back. And then throughout the year of 2024, a 21% increase in sales. The current estimated revenue as of last year is $231.2 million. We say estimated revenue because the revenue and financials aren't exactly available to public information. Through the research, this was the estimated number we were able to find. So why we picked 30 million and where this adjustment in cost is coming from. So sourcing from an ethical and organic farm is around 50 to 75% more expensive than sourcing from a more conventional farm. Part of this reason is because, as we said, one of the forms of abuse is these animals being confined into really tight spaces where they're not really able to live any full life while being used for the sources of milk. Obviously, more spaces of land, more cattle, that costs more money to maintain and to run, and that's where a lot of this comes into play. So Fairlife currently spends $30 million on the farms a year, and as well as adding the cost of the animal welfare, kind of investing even more into that, training the employees to avoid this abuse, and also the technology and other factors that we said, we're going to estimate a double in cost of $30 million. However, we have worked out ways in which we can take this money that we don't believe is going to be very harmful to the company in terms of financials. So kind of a mixture of two different things to get this $30 million. First is a distribution of sales. We understand the revenue is the take home of Fairlife, that's where you guys get the money. However, with the $1 billion in retail sales, we believe with 1% of that, which funds a third of this program, of that $30 million, would already complete a lot of money. And we believe that this 1% of sales is possible because we've seen this a lot with other companies. We've seen people or beauty brands do 1% during Mental Health Awareness Month to go to mental health awareness organizations. Even most recently with the LA fires, I know I saw a lot of companies doing 1% of their sales going towards rebuilding the fires. So we do believe taking 1% of sales versus the revenue is still a possible solution. Additionally, to get that other $20 million, an increase in cost. Roughly a 2% increase in cost plus taking the 1% of sales would fund this program. We believe that an increase in price is okay and a profitable solution. It won't deter customers away from the product because it is a very slight increase and it won't really be that noticeable. It's going to be less than $1 for a product, and general products are already going up in price, so it wouldn't necessarily stand out. Additionally, why we went over the sales and the financial history is to show that Fairlife's doing really good on their sales and it's very exponentially growing. With over 20% increase in sales for the past few years, we don't believe that a couple cents increase in price or a less than $1 increase in price would necessarily decrease this number by an extreme amount. On top of that, we do believe that you guys have a very loyal consumer base, and because of that, people will still be shopping the product, especially if they know that this money is going towards these programs and they are balanced out with all of the ethical proof. We believe that people will still want to shop and maybe even be more encouraged to shop the product.
All right, so overall, our solution here for Fairlife is going to be a legally, financially, and ethically viable way to move forward as a company. And we believe that this gold standard and this verified farms are going to exponentially increase the quality of life of these farm animals that we are sourcing from. Again, we are going to enforce legally binding contracts to ensure that these farms are doing as they are told. And this way we can be sure that these farms are being transparent with us. And so overall, we hope that you guys enjoyed our presentation. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The rights of all of us in this room are derived in most cases from the Constitution. What's the source of rights for cows?
Like we mentioned, there aren't any laws that provide rights for animals in general. But as we mentioned, they are sentient beings, and like us, we feel that they have moral rights. Just fundamentally, they have moral rights because they have the ability to experience the pleasures, the pains, the stresses that we do as well. Just from an ethical perspective, we commit to upholding these rights and protect them for our animals.
Well, cockroaches are sentient beings too. They feel heat, they feel cold, they feel wind. Are they the same as cows?
I would have to look more into that, but from my understanding, cockroaches' nervous systems are a lot different from ours, and animals that are warm-blooded. But that's a great question. I'll have to look into that a little bit more and get back to you.
I I can also add within this situation, cockroaches aren't being taken as like a pet that you're abusing and neglecting. These animals are helping the company, they're supporting the company. In a way, you can almost consider them like a part of the team, because without them, the product isn't going to be happening. So because of that, they deserve fair treatment and they deserve that ethical treatment due to what they provide for us.
And then also going off of that, there's been a lot of scientific studies that show that a lot of farm animals such as cows, pigs, they feel similar emotions to the way that a dog feels. They feel attached to people, they feel attached to their young, they feel a sense of happiness, they feel a sense of loneliness. But a cockroach doesn't have that kind of cognitive ability to feel a sense of loneliness, a sense of happiness, to feel a sense of community amongst each other.
Can you go back to the slide that talks about what we're doing right now in the current state? There we go. So 40 million in investment. We have a full-time veterinarian staff. We have the Animal Welfare Advisory Council. Those experts, we have regular audits each year to our farms. Zero tolerance policy for animal abuse. Why will the gold standard, why will that be more effective than what that is?
I think overall it'll be more effective because this one will actually be legally enforceable. So it's not like what it currently is, where Fairlife would just cut ties with this. Now there's a bigger stake for these farms. There's more repercussions if they break these rules or if they happen to make any violations. It's going to be a lot more strict. There's going to be definitely a lot more pressure put on the farms, but really they shouldn't be feeling any of this pressure. If they really are an ethical farm, if they really are operating ethically, then they really should have nothing to hide, right? So that's kind of why this further development, at least in the sense of legal action, will be enforced here. So there's more repercussions for the farm if they do.
I guess I'm trying to, you're already at zero tolerance, right?
Yeah, but
it's already against the rules.
Mm-hmm.
They already have standards that they're choosing to break, right?
Yeah, and there aren't really enough repercussions, and that's why we believe that these farms are breaking these rules. And I mean, as you've seen, Fairlife, we are still partnering with these same farms. So it's almost like just a slap on the wrist.
Sure.
They're not really getting the proper repercussions that we think are necessary, and then this way, it's definitely a lot more enforceable, both legally speaking, and we also mentioned financially as well. So there's a lot more incentive for the farmers and the operators to act in an ethical manner.
So most companies have a good, better, best product line, and really knowing where you're going to play as a company and then just owning it. TJ Maxx is an example, Dollar Store is a good example. Fairlife, we don't sell organic, we don't sell free range, that's not what we're advertising. We're not advertising that. Our customer base, they don't buy our product for that. We are actually within standards of what the grade and classification that we sell at. Maybe we don't want a free range product or a higher end product. What say you to that?
So are you saying that just because our product is at a current standard right now and our customer base is going to buy it anyways, that we should just allow these farms that we're partnering with to continue to operate unethically, to abuse these cows? It really doesn't make sense, at least in my opinion. It doesn't seem fair. I mean, you put yourself in the shoes of the cow, so to speak. I mean, how would you feel? I don't think I'd feel very great, to be honest. I don't think that's, in my personal opinion, I don't think that's very justified to put it in that sense. But that's just my opinion, and if anybody else would like to comment.
I also believe that with wanting to increase the standards goes to what Fairlife says their mission is and what's on their website. All these programs are shared, that there's zero tolerance for abuse, that they're only farming ethically, and they really go into how much this matters to them on your website. However, this isn't what's happening, and that's why we believe these standards need to be upheld, because it's what's being marketed, and that becomes a whole other unethical issue of marketing something that's not really happening within the company. And we think if more consumers were aware of that, they maybe wouldn't want to shop. I talked to someone yesterday where I mentioned that we're pitching about Fairlife being more ethical, and they even said, I shop Fairlife all the time, I had no clue they run ethical, now I'm worried of shopping. So we believe that increasing these efforts, especially with what's on the website, it's just an overall better market for the company, even if technically you're currently within the standards.
Ollie?
Would you go back to the financial solutions slide, please?
Adjustments or?
Perfect, and then go one slide further. I think we had
This one right here?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Adjustments? Yeah.
That one, adjustment, and you had one earlier to show the annual sales, I think,
This one right here?
perfect, that one. So the current revenue is 231 million, right? That's what we're saying?
That's the rough
That's
estimate
what
we're
we're
able to
estimating.
find.
Now go forward a slide, please. So just so I get all of our numbers straight, so we're currently selling about 230 million a year. The 30 million spent on farms, is that to buy our product or is that for our current programs?
That's the current just general like funding that goes into getting the milk for the product. So that's just
Our
for-
cost to get the milk right now is 30 million.
Yes, that's,
We spent 40 million since 2019 on the program.
Yes,
So
which
let's
is
call it 10
different.
million a year, that's a separate thing.
yes,
So it's 30 million plus 10 million, so at 40 million a year is kind of what we're in it for right now to get our product effectively, if I understand the numbers.
Implementing the solution as well?
No, just the
Just
current
what we
state,
current efforts,
it's
yeah.
40 million bucks since 2019 to do the programs you guys stated. And it costs us about 30 million a year right now to get the milk, if I understand.
I
Yes,
believe
right.
that's the 30 million cost that it is to be with the farms that you guys currently are partnering with. So not necessarily like any additional cost as of the investment programs or the wellness programs that have been in place since 2019, which also that 40 million in that welfare program is since 2019. So that's not a yearly funding. The 30 million is just the amount that it costs to be keeping up with the farms that we.
And the revenue was 231 million, but I also saw $1 billion somewhere.
The
right?
billion is in retail sales.
Okay.
So as in only so much is available for public information for us to source from. The retail sales is what's put on the website, which is a very big accomplishment, so it makes sense to market on it. The 231.2 million is just what a lot of websites estimate, but there are also higher estimated numbers. It kind of went around, that's what we thought was the most clear average, but that is the retail sales is where the 1 billion comes from, whereas this is just the take-home revenue, what is being taken throughout that.
I see, so the 231 is the bottom line.
Yes,
Okay.
what take-home.
So it's not the revenue, which is top line, it's the actual bottom line, is what we're saying for 231.
Yeah, well, we meant to be net income, so to
Got it.
speak.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So we gotta spend, what you're saying to the board right now is that if we spent another 30 million a year, we would have this gold standard, right? That's what we're saying. And it seems like we've done better every year so far since, we joined the Coca-Cola group, our very wealthy parent company. I know we've had a couple missteps here and there, but if we just do what we were supposed to do now a little bit better, do we really need to do all the extra stuff? I mean, the cameras, how many people are gonna watch cows playing and running in the field? Can't we just do what we're supposed to do a little bit better and save ourselves the 40 million?
Yeah, that's a good point. Honestly, the truth is, at least in my generation, some people are like just chronically online all the time, just on random websites. I remember in like my middle school days, some kids would like during the middle of the class, they'd pull up like a live stream camera of people walking around in New York. Like, people use these websites, like you wouldn't expect it, but really all we need is just like a couple thousand people on the platform at a time. Maybe they just have it in the background, but if they notice something, well then they can comment on it and then it gets sent to the third-party platform. And just in case they aren't viewing a certain act of or a violation or mistreatment, that's why we have the AI-powered monitoring system as well, just in case anything does slip through the cracks. So really, nothing should get past us. Everything should go to the third-party platform, which then they will filter through, and then they will isolate those moments that are clear violations. It's a really good point, but we just think these efforts really show where we stand as a company. It really shows that we care about our cows. We care about where we get our dairy from. And I think that speaks volumes to the consumer. I mean, people are only getting more ethical with the products they're buying and things like that. I think this is just a good statement to put out by us. Not saying we're going to do something, but by actually showing it, improving it, and giving people the opportunity to look from the outside and see directly into the farms to see what's really going on. We're trying to show that we're not hiding anything. We have nothing to hide. We want to be fully transparent with everybody. We want to be a completely open book.
Is this also so that the farms are culpable for the treatment of the animals? In other words, right now, some of these farms that we're using as a Fairlife board member, I can see how uncomfortable it is to see what they're doing to these animals, right? So if I have a camera on them, now they feel like, oh, we're not going to do this anymore because they're going to cut us off if there's a camera on and they see it. That's part of the strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So it's like a dual strategy is what you're saying.
Yeah, and like I had mentioned earlier, if these farms truly are ethically being operated, then they should have nothing to worry about, right? Unless they should only feel maybe pressure, or maybe they feel anxiety if they are trying to hide something. And that's what we want to find. We want to exploit that as quickly as possible so then we can terminate our contract with them. If they do perform a violation that's big enough, then maybe there's even a financial penalty as well. We just want everything to be open. We want everything to be transparent. We don't want to put unnecessary pressure on the farmers, but like I said, if they are being ethical, then there shouldn't be any pressure to begin with.
Is there any trouble finding farms that can supply the cows that we need at Fairlife? I mean, if we start cutting people off, is there a problem there?
We have to do a little bit more research, but I also believe that part of the money too, if say the main issue of the farm isn't necessarily like the direct abuse of the animals, but maybe the space, maybe also taking some of that money to fund maybe spreading out the farm and allowing more space. However, more research needs to be done on specifically which farms and where they are located, of how to organize that plan.
Okay.
It's a really good question. We'll look into it. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
And then also, I just wanted to add to that, we see now that like the dairy farming industry is kind of having a little bit of a problem. So in our view, we believe that if we're going to be giving money to this industry, we should give our money to let's say a smaller farm that follows all of these standards and deserves to grow into that big farm, rather than continue giving our money to a farm that is like better words, torturing their animals. And we'd rather, help someone build than continue, because it's more easier for us.
You guys pointed out that producing, if it's organic and all of that would be 50 to 75% higher cost. Now, we're not organic necessarily, as you pointed out, but your estimation of the cost increase was very, very nominal, because I think we were only counting 40 million to pay for the additional programs. But if we want farms to provide more space and not do certain things, I imagine one of the key reasons that they're like this is because they're trying to move things along and be faster and get more product out. Do you think the actual effect on increasing costs, because these farms are going to have to still make their money, do you foresee no increased cost to us from the actual product side? Not the program, that's point B. Point A is the production cost of the milk itself, and the core of it. There'd be no increase at all to these farms to give more space and to be nicer and let cows meander their way in instead of pushing and
Do you mean for like the farms themselves? Like, are the margins going to be different there? Like, you mean
so
operating
they're
together?
selling us every gallon of milk at X price
Yes,
today,
yes.
with the way they're producing it.
Yes.
We're gonna go to them and say, hey, I don't want you to produce the milk by doing these list of things that you guys have cited. And the farm says either yes or no. If they say no, then they're gone. If they say yes, they say great, we'll stay, but Fairlife, for me to do this, I now gotta get this much room, and I need more people to help, and if I can't kick the cow, and the cow wants to slowly work its way here, well, that's gonna increase my time, there's 11% here, 4% there, add it up, the net cost to you is 18% more for the milk, or whatever their number might be. Do you guys think there'll be no increase in those costs as far as the production goes?
That's actually a really, really good comment. I'm actually really appreciative that you brought that up. We didn't really account for that. I'm sure maybe there will be some adjustments, maybe in the prices, maybe they, whatever their metric system is for the dairy that they give to us, the cost of that will change, but we don't expect it to fluctuate so much that it puts like so much pressure on our financial picture of our company. But the nice thing is we have set that 30 million aside just for a little bit of wiggle room. And we also have the potential for, like I mentioned, ad revenue from the live stream platform, which just in case anything does happen like that, well, then we can allocate those funds to maybe potentially softening up those margins a bit on our end and easing our picture financially.
Sure.
I'm a little concerned about farm workers, not necessarily the farm owners. The federal government is deporting large numbers of agricultural workers if they can find them. If we have video that we're providing to the federal government, isn't it going to make it easier for them to deport these workers? Because they can identify them.
I guess asked differently, is that a violation of the workers being recorded all day long during their day of, work day?
Normally it would be in those states that Rachel had mentioned, the ag laws, it wouldn't be allowed there. But thankfully Fairlife right now currently isn't partnering with any farms that are operating in these states. And if we do plan to partner with a farm in the future, we're going to make sure that they are not in these states. That's a really dynamic point you bring up. Honestly, that's like opens up a whole case of worms, to be honest, in terms of ethics there. We honestly did not think about that. It's really specific, but it's a good question.
Yeah, and I do believe something that we could try with this live stream program, with the technology, with how crazy technology is now, is figure out a way to also like maybe blur the exact faces of the workers, and then if the farm sees, oh, they can more look at the timesheet, who was working during this time, and that way they have that more direct information, whereas the people watching maybe just see a blurry face, because you see when you watch a show or a movie, they kind of blur out logos or faces and things that they don't want to be in public, that they don't have the consent to show. So in that case, we can also try to find a way to make the technology, if it allows us to blur out the faces, therefore it kind of shields that identity a bit, and it's more on the owner to see who was working that time in that position, and that's where they can go from.
It's a great comment.
Any more questions from the board? No?
I'm opening the door.
Thank you.
That's
Take a deep
Oh,
breath.
man.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to start with the feedback?
Thank you. Obviously a difficult topic to kind of unwind. This is near and dear to my heart. My last role, I was the chief operating officer of a 750 million revenue protein manufacturer that dealt mostly with beef. And the beef value chain I know very well. And there is a lot of rules, a lot of regulation, USDA, FDA, all the way, it's layers and layers deep. And it's complicated, for sure. I think, number one, I work with a lot of companies that have had suppliers like this. And these suppliers that have all these cows, they don't just sell to Fairlife. They sell to a lot of different people, right? So our cows might not have a big F branded on them, and they might not be separated. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
And standardizing processes by company, if I'm the cow owner, I'm like, listen guys, I've got 20 customers. You want it this way, they want it this way, they want it this way. I just can't do it. Why I have, as a supplier, power in that negotiation is, if you think about it, and you don't know a lot about cows, but they only are producing milk, there's a maturity, there's a capacity issue. There's only so many cows producing milk right now. And it's not as easy as like, oh, I'll just go to Maryland and find my cow. Number one, does the milk taste the same from a Maryland cow to a California milk? It's different. And I have a product. I can't just change my grapes and my wine, right? I can't just change milk. So there's a lot of implementation things that have to be thought through. Sustainability, if we're talking about increasing sizes of these fields, now we have to water them and fertilize them. And as you guys know, most of the gases that are created from carbon emissions are actually from steer production. And it's a very complicated thing. So you guys did a good job. It's a difficult thing to tackle. I don't know any suppliers I've ever had that would let me put a camera inside their operation. But it's a good idea, I think. But everyone would say no. But yes, agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate those comments.
Yep.
I thought you did a really nice job on your research, condensing it to some very, really good slides that communicated the thoughts coherently, cogently, nicely done. And your presentation style was terrific.
Thank you.
Eye contact, we were having a conversation, not being lectured. And that really is very effective, so well done.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Ali?
I continue to be impressed by all the topics that all these teams are picking. And I'm a huge animal lover. My wife is vegan vegetarian after not being that way 15, 20 years ago. So she's raised a lot of my understanding and forces me to watch PETA videos every 4 to 6 months. See if she can swing me. She might be successful at one day. So I think it's a noble cause. The reason I picked at you in my board member role, I was trying to get you off your game purposefully because that's the way those conversations go. And B, to draw your attention to when you're looking in most companies, especially anything owned by Coca-Cola, when you're dealing with that size, it almost always comes down to a numbers game.
Yeah.
And the most important thing you can highlight to, and I hate to tell you this the way the world works, but rarely do companies act altruistically and the benefit of the greater good. If they did, you wouldn't have a lot of laws you have today. Most of them have a genesis in incredible amounts of abuse and manipulation. But the way you get a company to change is not necessarily appealing to their good graces, because quite honestly, they can manage the PR. They're still buried in garbage online and nobody will know that this is our cow and they'll spin it away. The way you can really improve it is give them metrics for if we did this, look at what we could then mark and we think this would be the upside.
Yeah.
That draws them in. Because then the board member, what they're selling is, the board member that might be empathetic towards your position, he or she now has a weapon that they can go and sell this other board member. Go, oh guys, look, we're leaving this on the table. We just got to do this. Look how cheap the program is, and we can market the hell out of this, and we're amazing, and we'll put all over Instagram and everywhere else how amazing and wonderful we are. That is what usually appeals to their motivational ideology to take action on something. It's not just appealing, as much as I hate to tell it, just because of the greater good or it's our right thing. Many companies put stuff on their website, and they rarely live up to a fraction of what they claim.
Yeah.
So out there in the world, that's not how you're gonna motivate the change. It's how do you find the buttons in every situation? Or in this case, board of directors, company, something like this, is the dollars and cents conversation that makes it happen.
Mhm.
So you guys did a really nice job pulling a lot of it together. The devil, as they always say, is in the details, but as one aspect, there's others that they've commented on. But because I'm a numbers and money guy, I've seen this conversation happen so many times, and the conversation that happens after the fact in the room, the best way to get it is to marry these two things together. Here's the right thing, but here's why the right thing is better for everyone. You know, like when you talk Dow Chemicals, don't put those forever chemicals, not only because you're gonna kill everyone, but the financial cost is this, and if we didn't, we can be the responsible chemical company, whatever the spin is. That's the way you guys wanna always try to find it. So you did an excellent job with what you put up, really nicely done. As Barney said, your presentation was really good, all of you participated really, really well. And you did a nice job working with each other. So when no one maybe didn't catch something because the question came, you know, Rachel and you also came in, and then you had some good reasoning and you supported one another. And that's really what a good team presentation is about. It's nice to see that.
Thank you very much.
I'll just quickly say, I really agree with what everybody said. In the past presentation that I was in, we talked a lot about, after everybody left, some of the judges and I talked about, you know, how important it is to get that ethical aspect in there. In other words, we should be kind of uncomfortable in this room watching the ethical issue to a certain degree. And you guys made that really good, compelling point. That obviously something needs to be done. There's a problem here, there's an ethical issue. This is an ethical and sustainability competition. So I think you did a really good job of tying us into that emotional aspect of it. The solution, I wholeheartedly agree, while it's a money-based solution that, you know, the company's gonna have to spend money in order to look for a way around this. There's also that marketing edge that says, how can we market this to the consumer? How can we, you know, from a brand perspective, look better? And how can we take this thing that's gonna cost us money and have it actually make money for us? And that could have maybe been tied in a little bit more evidently so we could see, you know, it is a double-edged sword, right? But again, I thought you guys were very interactive. The slides were great. You told us what you were going to tell us. you told us and you told us again. So, I mean, we had a really good flow and consistency. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.